What is up, everyone? It is me again, and since it has been such a big week of doing league previews, I thought, what the hell? Let's do it for one more day, even though technically I always do this every week for the show that I know you all know and love, previews and predictions. So here are my top 5 matchups for this upcoming weekend, starting with number 5, Barcelona versus Alaves. Because I'm always intrigued to see how the defending league champion plays in their first league game of the next season. I mean, do they have the same hunger to win it? Are they still doing the little things that are necessary to win games? Are they up for the challenge of repeating as champions, especially in La Liga, where Barcelona are the heavy favorites to win it again, despite Atletico Madrid sending a message to everyone that they mean business after they came back to beat Real Madrid 4-2 in extra time of the UEFA Super Cup. Also, let's be honest, what a message they sent, because when was the last time Atleti scored 4 goals in a big game? I can't remember. I mean, has that ever happened under Diego Simeone? I don't think that it has. And if that's how they're going to do it this season, though, they could be unstoppable. But back to Barcelona. After surviving the one-legged Spanish Super Cup where they came back to win 2-1 against Sevilla, which is still somewhat of a preseason game, or that's what the losers of that game say. It was only preseason. While the winners say, add another trophy to the trophy cabinet, motherfuckers. Anyway, where was I going with that? Oh yeah. Regardless of that Spanish Super Cup result, this is the real deal. This is where the points matter and where the questions of how good this team can be can start to be answered. But since Barca have lost only one league game in the last 18 months or whatever, I can't see them losing this, especially at home. So I'm going to say 3-0 to the hosts with Messi getting a brace. And up next at number 4, it's Corinthians versus Grêmio in Brazil, because first off, after seeing a few games in Sao Paulo earlier this year, I love the league down there. It is so awesome, as are their supporters. It's just, I don't know how to explain it other than I love it. Anyway, Corinthians are the defending champions after winning the league by 9 points in the last campaign. But this year, they're currently in 7th, almost halfway through the season. So I really don't see them repeating as champions unless they can put a run together. And for me, that run would have to start right now at home against 4th place Grêmio, who are 7 points above them, while Grêmio are currently 5 points behind league leader Sao Paulo FC. So if you're picking up what I'm putting down, this is a must-win game for both, meaning it's going to be awesome, meaning it'll probably end up in a draw, because I don't know. That's what I'm feeling in my gut, and I always trust my gut. So I'm going with my famous 2-2 prediction. And coming in hot at number 3, it's Atlanta United hosting the Columbus Crew. And honestly, there are way too many juicy storylines to talk about here, but none juicier than the current owner of the Crew, Anthony Precourt, finally getting the support that he needs to build a stadium from the politicians in Austin, Texas. So it looks like the Crew could finally be moving away from Columbus, which is actually really sad on so many different levels, and it's not a good look for MLS overall, but I'm gonna make this a conversation for another time because we need to talk about this matchup. And here's what you need to know. Atlanta currently have more points than any other team in the league. They also have owned Columbus in regular season matchups, and I probably shouldn't make a joke about owning in Columbus. I know that's a little sensitive right now. However, in the playoffs last season, Columbus knocked them out behind a heroic performance by Crew goalkeeper Zach Steffen, who is also looking like the first choice goalkeeper for the US at the moment, and I really feel like that is a good thing because I really like his game. However, the Crew do have a tendency to look vulnerable to counterattacks, and that is one of Atlanta's specialties going forward. So given that this is a regular season game, and given that the Crew could be emotional due to the off-the-field distraction of moving to Texas, I'm going to say that Atlanta wins this 2-1. And coming in at number 2, it's Lazio versus Napoli, which welcomes a familiar face to the Stadio Olimpico, former Roma player Carlo Ancelotti, who stunned everyone with his decision to become Napoli's manager over the summer. But maybe that's just what he needed to get his career back on track after his relatively short stint at his last managerial job at Bayern Munich, where he never really fit in. I didn't think he was a good hire for them, and clearly they didn't think that either. Plus, maybe he'll be the difference maker that Napoli needs to finally win the league. Now, as you saw in my Serie A preview, I'm going to say no to that, but given the amount of success that Ancelotti has had managing in Italy before, he can't rule him out completely, so it'll be interesting to see how his team performs for him in his first game in charge. Now, as for Lazio, well, this is their first league game since they lost to Inter Milan in the last game of the last season to not qualify for the Champions League, something they've had all summer to think about, so you know they're going to want to get off to a good start to the season. However, Napoli have straight up beaten Lazio 5 out of the last 6 times they've played, scoring 19 goals and only giving up 3 over those 6 meetings, so that does not bode well for Lazio. Plus, Lazio lost a few key players in center back Steven de Vrij and Felipe Anderson, but, and I like these guys, they added Sassuolo's captain Francesco Acerbi, who will provide some much-needed leadership in the back, and 24-year-old Joaquin Correa from Sevilla, who hasn't quite reached his potential just yet, but I like what he brings to the table. So, in summation, this is going to be a great game. Ciro the Hero Immobile will probably score, Dries Mertens will probably hit the back of the net as well, and so will some other guys, and it's going to be a barn burner, and I think it's going to end 3-3. And finally at number 1, it's Chelsea versus Arsenal, or as I like to call them, the two clubs that Manchester City has already beat this season. But only one of these two clubs actually has any points, 3 of them to be exact, and that is Chelsea, who looked very good last week in their dismantling of Huddersfield, while Arsenal did not look very good last week in their home defeat against City, even though new manager Unai Emery went out of his way to pay tribute to the Gunners' old manager Arsene Wenger by making some unexpected selections for his starting 11, which we all know Wenger specialized in, outside of also specializing in failure. Instead of just playing the obvious lineup like starting Alexander Lacazette and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang at the same goddamn time, is it that f***ing hard? Also, and what I fear most for Arsenal in this game is Emery's insistence that his team play out of the back, which is not a strength for some of his players, most notably goalkeeper Petr Cech, and you add this to the fact that Maurizio Sarri coached teams love to high press, and it could get very ugly. And to make matters even worse, if somehow Arsenal do break that first line of Chelsea's pressure, then they're going to have to deal with Jorginho and N'Golo Kante. And given how listless Arsenal's midfield was last game, they got no chance against these animals in Chelsea's midfield. And as we've learned countless times, the middle of midfield is where games are won and lost, and Chelsea's midfield is just better than Arsenal's at the moment, so I like Chelsea to win this 2-0. And all right, that is it. That is all I got except for this. Predict the right score for Chelsea versus Arsenal, and you will be entered to win a Warm Baller Starters Kit. And yes, I know I forgot to pick a winner last week, and I'll make that up to you by picking 2 winners from last week and 2 winners for this week, which I will announce on Monday. So good luck, and please, for me, have a good or bad weekend. Later.